Major Marco.
At least a decade ago, I acquired the rights from United Artists of Manchurian Candidate, which my father co-owned with this studio. They together produced the original Manchurian Candidate, starring my dad and Larry Harvey and Angela Lansbury, directed by John Frankenheimer and written by George Axelrod. My father was best when he was given the best material. He was self-motivated to go out and get the rights to the Richard Condon book, which is why we're all here today. I finally said to him, what do you really think about doing it again? And he said, I don't think there's a better idea.
Smile if you like.
The movie I wanted to make was a paranoid thriller. Denzel Washington unraveling, going crazy even as he tries to regain his own idea of what his sanity is. It's also a paranoid political thriller, and I think in an election year, a picture set against a backdrop of a presidential race, to me, brings a lot of extra fun to the party.
We tried to surprise people, I think, as the film unfolded. We tried to do what Condon does in his original novel, which is to utilize many different genres. He's writing a thriller, he's writing a comedy, he's writing a political satire, he's writing a social satire, and he's writing a Greek tragedy, all at the same time. I think both Jonathan and I were tickled by the possibilities inherent in that we could move from one genre to the next and back again.
Another big challenge that we were faced with was somehow justifying the title Manchurian Candidate. In the first movie and in the book, it refers to Manchuria as a hotbed of communism, and that ties into the notion of world domination, aspirations towards world domination on the part of communism. Communism is no longer the big global threat. I guess we all have our own ideas of what the current big global threat is.
Mark.
Eleanor.
It occurred to me that a kind of corporate totalitarianism was probably the new philosophy that was scariest.
Raymond, this is J.B. Johnston
Yes.
from Manchurian Global.
Hi, how are you?
I think that all of us who made the movie were really fascinated by the way U.S. government intersects with such an extraordinary intimacy with multinational corporations that profit from war and chaos. And we discover that so many of the world leaders, the people who make the decisions that impact on the entire population of the planet, they're the same people.
The private equity fund Manchurian Global, your mother's primary political benefactor for the past 15 years.
Oh, come on, Tom.
So we name our multinational corporation Manchurian Global.
If it's not true, I will see you impeached on the floor of the Senate and bury you.
Eleanor Shaw was the big point of departure for me, where this new movie really separated itself from the original movie and from Condon's novel. It was another thought that I had instinctively from the very beginning, which was that in 2004, Eleanor Shaw was not going to be the stage mother behind the scenes pushing her son or her husband to greater glory. She was going to be a force in her own right.
I will do whatever is necessary to protect America.
And probably a woman of a generation that just can't quite make it to the top. She hit the glass ceiling, partially because she's a woman and partially because she knows where so many bodies are buried, and so many of them were buried by her.
This is about my son and the future of this country.
I think that the enemy in the movie is the idea that there's a better way to run America or run the world. There's a more efficient political idea, and that in the hands of someone as damaged and as scary as Eleanor Shaw, disaster could ensue. I don't see Manchurian Global as the enemy in the film. I think Eleanor Shaw is the enemy in the film.
Why don't you pass the time by playing a little solitaire?
The triggering of the brainwashing, which in the book and the original movie is this wonderful idea of playing solitaire, and then turns into the Queen of Diamonds, and there's this whole allusion to his mother, and was just not an area that we wanted to go into. We wanted to find something new, and Jonathan Demme had this great idea that we'd strip it all away and make it simply a repetitive verbal cue.
Sergeant Raymond Shaw.
And then, in addition, he had this idea that instead of becoming deadpan zombies, that the effect of the brainwashing would actually heighten your awareness. You would become, it's almost like they're taking ecstasy or something. It's like he's been transported to another place with greater powers. He's smarter than he was before. He's happier than he was before, and the light comes up.
Doctor, what's this part for?
This is basically, these are the three, this is waiting to tighten it. This is the screws that goes into the skull.
Is this missing a screw?
Right, it's missing like this.
We need another.
Yeah.
So-
Well, actually, one is missing.
Now, when you
one
say
is-
screw, you don't mean it gets screwed into the
does.
skull.
It does.
Okay. A lot of research went into the area of brain manipulation and how can you, quote unquote, brainwash somebody. So we do the procedure in real life, and it's a success. How soon can this guy get up off the table and go about his business?
10 minutes.
Good. Lots of new techniques are being used to alter people's consciousness, you know, anything from drugs to genomic reconfiguration to implanting devices that transmit signals to the brain. This technology is being used to really help people, and in the wrong hands, like in our story, it could be used to damage people, so it's interesting.
I've always been a Jonathan Demme fan. There's a slightly kinky edge. There's a slightly over-the-top take that is really, really exciting to me. That we wouldn't be watching the story if it wasn't slightly bigger than life. It wouldn't be interesting to us unless it wasn't a little bit better, a little bit funnier, a little bit sadder, a little bit darker, a little bit stranger. I think that is sort of what he brings to films. He has that eye, that he sees things in a strange way.
As a print, thank you, let's go again. All right, here we go.
He brings positive energy. He brings, he makes the, I know he makes this actor feel like I can try anything. He's one of the sweetest people I know.
Jonathan?
Yeah?
Do you want me to go almost right away after?
He's somebody who has his eye on everything, absolutely everything. Working with Jonathan made me know I could never be a director. Never, never, never. I mean, he just knows what's going on in 15 different directions in front of him and behind his head.
Okay, ready? It's too good to be true. We got
background and
action!
He embraced the idea of information overload and brought to it visual and auditory stuff that I had only suggested, that he ran with that idea.
There's a scene with Denzel and Liev that Jonathan has set it behind some mottled glass with a lot of activity in the back. He's got people running through in colored shirts, and the scene is all shot in sort of close-ups, and what you get is the disorder in this man's mind. It's all happening, it's sort of abstractly written on the background.
The camera is constantly moving. It's constantly moving in different directions, and the images on the screen behind the Secure Tomorrow keeps blipping up like some hypnotic suggestion. I think that Jonathan Demme and Taka Fujimoto consciously made a decision to turn that scene into a dream. I always wanted the movie to unfold almost as if Marco was dreaming the whole thing. So, for example, the scene in which Raymond walks through his hotel room and the wall opens up and he goes into this weird room where they drill his head. I conceived it as, yes, these are based on real medical techniques, but it's also a dream world. And it could be what actually happened, or it could be a dream.
Came to apologize, sir. Raymond, what are you doing?
It was incredibly challenging to come up with a new way to kill Senator Jordan and his daughter. I didn't want to go anywhere near the old movie. It was one of the places where I really thought about what had been done in the old movie and how beautifully done it was.
Raymond, what are you...
Daddy, what is it? Raymond, no! Raymond, darling!
I didn't want to go anywhere near that. So I wanted it to feel real. I wanted it to be in the fog because I felt that that's where the movie was at that moment, was everything was kind of in a fog. I wanted it to be in the water because it was the idea that characters were drowning, literally and figuratively. I wanted something that was beautiful and simple. My job is just to suggest it on the page. It was Jonathan Demme and Tak Fujimoto who had to actually make it work.
Tak and I have been working together since 1974. And he's shot, I think, all but one of the dramatic movies that I've done since then, which is probably about a dozen or so. And I know what his agenda is. He's there to serve the performances and serve the actors and make them look right, give them the lighting that will help communicate what they want to communicate. He knows how to film eyes, he knows how to film skin. He also is a master of mood lighting. He comes up with fantastic mood concepts, the way he'll light a scene, and he manages to get these sometimes antagonistic goals to work very nicely together, serving the actors even as he's serving the mood.
Well, it's official. CBS News now projects Robert Arthur and Raymond Shaw to be the next President and Vice President of the United States.
When I started writing the end, I tried to create a rhythm using all of the pieces of the story that had been set up. The end hopefully just tumbles. If you've done it right, I find the images just tumble on top of each other. I think that two things happen at the end. One is Raymond realizes that he can't let this thing happen. Marco has convinced him that there must be a way. I think what's going through Raymond's mind is that he can't live, he can't survive. And it's not so much because he's got an implant in his head as because of what his mother has done to him. It's a classically Greek idea that he's damaged goods because he's corrupted, his soul is corrupted. And because of that, he has to sacrifice himself, and his mother has to be sacrificed. When Marco's in the booth, he is a soldier. He's doing what he was trained to do. There's no emotion in it, but the minute that Raymond goes the wrong direction, the minute that the plan goes slightly off kilter, even under the control of the implant, he's wrestling with the possibility that things are not what they appear to be. He hesitates, and then the president-elect's wife walks in front of him. For Marco, it's all about the precision of it. It has to be exactly what it needs to be, or he won't do it. And once those two events occur, Marco too reaches down for that thing that he says exists, that thing that they couldn't touch.
I wanted to be part of it because it's a good script. It's a good idea that suggests a really powerful and intriguing and interesting and frightening what if this were true? What if things like this could happen?
Jon Voight at one point accuses Meryl's character of wanting to help these power brokers get the first fully owned and operated vice president of the United States in the White House. And there are many today who might say, well, wait a minute, didn't that already happen?
I think the movie is a bit of a mirror. Some people have said it's a Rorschach test. I think it's more of a mirror of who we are and what we've become.
It does say, hey, take a look around. Just don't accept everything that you see.
What's fascinating is that we do have, I think, like a really terrific picture. But can any movie, can any piece of fiction compete with the characters that are really in the White House, in these positions of power right now? All fiction pales by comparison. I think our only competition is really like reality.
Sergeant Raymond Shaw.
Yes.
I love these characters as much as any characters I've ever worked with. We've got dozens of wonderful characters, and I was able to get to work with actors who I've really only dreamed of working with before. I got to tell you, when you get a screenplay and you're reading it to see what kind of movie it might be, and you have the luxury of picturing Denzel Washington going through the motions that the script describes, it can really kind of heat up the experience. Ben Marco breaks my heart. He's an extraordinarily decent man, and he's an important American in the sense of he's what we're supposed to be all about: integrity, decency, generosity, a quest for the truth.
He's a soldier who just run into some unusual circumstances and a mind-altering experience. He's just trying to figure out what's wrong with him. The basic question that he asks is, what's wrong with me? Why is what I'm being told is wrong with me not jiving with what I'm dreaming and feeling and believing?
Do you ever dream about Kuwait? Unfortunately, I can never remember my dreams.
He's much more of a driving force in the movie, as he was in the original novel. But unlike the novel, we never let him off the hook. He's a damaged man who, it's as if the truth is just out there in front of him, and he's grasping for it, and he can never quite get his hands around it.
I started with nightmares, rumors, conjectures. That's a giant leap forward.
Denzel is the heart of the piece. He's the suffering soul of the piece. We want this guy to go through things in an authentic manner, in some way that we can feel the suffering is real and understand the depth of manipulation that's being done to this particular character.
It was a difficult character to write because I wanted people to empathize with him. And at the same time, I didn't want to give him any of those conventional movie star moments where he rises to the occasion and does the right thing. He's constantly scrambling to do the right thing, or scrambling to do something that approximates the right thing, and half the time it collapses on him and turns into something else.
Denzel felt if you're portraying a character who has mental illness issues, as Ben Marco does, who is clinically depressed, you've got to respect that very real struggle that really exists for so many of us in real life. And that doesn't mean climbing the walls. It means down, down, down. I have such respect for him and such trust for him. And his point of view is so strong and so smart that it was like, let's go. I'm just in awe of the minimalism that Denzel brings to his portrayal of Ben Marco, coupled with the incredible emotional impact on us, the viewer, of that minimalism.
Denzel, as an actor, brings such size and a sort of broken dignity to this role. I think a lot of the work, you know, that other actors huff and puff to do, he just sort of walks in with it. And it's a great quality. It's star quality.
Cut! Terrific! At script level, if you're gonna direct a picture, there might be certain scenes where you just can't wait to see the great actor that has accepted the part bring that scene to life.
We are connected, and that's something nobody can take from us.
In this script, there were a couple of scenes like that. One is a scene where Denzel, late in the movie, expresses with all his heart and soul to Raymond his belief that together they can beat this conspiracy.
There's something deep inside. There's a part that they can't get to, and it's deep inside of us.
I felt this could be awesome, and as I look at the movie, and I've seen this picture obviously hundreds of times down the process, I find myself galvanized every time Denzel goes into that.
That's what you and me need to tap into, and that's what you and I are going to use to take them out, Raymond. We don't have much time, please.
Okay, so before we get started, I'm just dying to know.
Another scene in this movie in that same regard, and this was like a scary one because it was a much more challenging sequence in the sense that it involved about 4 pages of monologue that Meryl Streep was going to deliver in the character of Senator Eleanor Prentice Shaw. Watching Meryl design the way she wanted to play that scene, watching her just explore in terms of the literal ground that she was covering, just the way she chose to circle the room, where she chose to pause, where she wanted to sit down for a minute, where she wanted to leap up again. It was just one of the most joyful experiences I've ever had making a movie, watching her do that.
Make no mistake, the American people are terrified. They know something's coming. They can feel it.
And again, as I watch the picture now, as she slams home her point at the end of her 4-page monologue, guaranteed goosebumps and a desire inside me to run out and vote for this guy that she's been talking about, even though I'm watching some movie and the guy doesn't exist. Okay, cut! Print! Very good! Very good!
Jonathan, did you say smile?
I think a certain kind of smile would be a smirk.
I'm a great admirer of hers, and what is really interesting is how she changes subtly on each take, so that Jonathan has a lot to work with in the editing room. She'll be a little more subtle in one take, she'll be stronger in the other. She brings just a little touch of humor without losing the strength in another take. She's brilliant.
I couldn't think of anyone else who could play the role, really. She seemed perfect. She seemed exactly right because she was able to find the right amount of outrageousness and restraint. Just when you think she's going to go over the top, she pulls back. Just when you think that she's too zealous, she cracks a joke. She chews on her ice. She basically became the character, and pretty soon she was telling me what the character would do.
Sergeant Raymond Shaw.
I don't really see her as a villain. I don't see it that way. People are driven by what they feel is right. Sometimes you got to bend the rules to get to that place where the better world is.
Yes, I made a decision.
There are things that happen on the way. There are, as Donald Rumsfeld says, there's mess. There's mess.
Oh, God, where are all the men anymore? My father, Tyler Prentice, never asked, is this okay? Is this okay?
There were very specific public personalities that I was inspired by in creating this character, most definitely. I loved being someone so certain, because certainty is just so attractive in people. To me, it's a completely bogus position for me, because, I'm listening to every side, but it's so nice not to have to listen to all the different sides, to be so clear and on your track and sure. It's a fabulous thing. Unfortunately, it leads to fanaticism. But I want you to know, Raymond, I did this for you.
Eleanor Prentice Shaw is the most brilliant person in any room she enters. She's the most charismatic, and she is a passionate patriot. She's also an adoring mother. She loves her son Raymond, and she believes in her son Raymond.
What Meryl brings to it is this cloaked tenderness that you're surprised by the depth of her character's ability to love.
Oh, and look at you.
I play a loving mother.
Look at you, look what you've achieved, look how far.
Things go wrong, horribly wrong, but it's not for lack of best intentions.
I play Raymond Shaw, who first and foremost is the son of Eleanor Shaw, and he is a candidate for vice president. Well, basically, I play a mama's boy.
It's classic Greek tragedy. He's the man who's been turned into the killer.
Thank you. Thank you.
Making Raymond the candidate was fascinating because, in a way, it opened up the possibility of exploring more of the complexities of his character and dramatizing his public persona and his private persona and getting those two things distinctive.
I have never stopped wondering how things might have turned out between us.
Liev Schreiber, if he was not born to play this part of Raymond Shaw, the candidate, I don't know who was.
When you get this one, I'd just like to try one variation of that rotation. This is the one. Do it this time? Thanks.
It was very interesting with Liev because there was tremendous interest in that part from the finest actors of that generation.
Hello, Captain. I need to talk to you. Whoops, I did boo-boo.
And I met Liev late in the game, and I met him. I liked him immediately. And it's imperative that our heart goes out to Raymond. And I liked him immediately. My heart went out to him. He's so smart. He's so sharp. I was fascinated by the way he expressed himself and what he had to say. And I went, oh my God, we found the guy. That right combination of brains, emotional appeal, looks.
Todd!
Sir!
Rolling in 2 minutes.
He's a very accomplished actor. He's extremely bright. And this was a really hard role. I mean, So was mine. But his was really hard because he never knew when he was being controlled by forces other than his own self-generated will. And it was a really interesting thing to see sort of the self kind of wrestle down this other influence that came from an artificial source. I think he does an amazing job. You can really literally see the two forces at war behind his eyes.
I can't say enough about this cast. How many Academy Award winners do I have in this film? I lost count, and the director as well. They're all breathtaking. They are magnificent. They are spectacular. And they are magic together. It's forceful, it's powerful, and it's wonderful.
Roll camera up. Action!